So embracing summer and being like, there's fun times ahead shouldn't feel daunting. It should feel empowering. It should be like, wow, summer is an awesome opportunity for me to live life and stay on track with my fitness goals. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Truth Talks, the podcast that brings you real strategies for sustainable fitness transformation. Today, it is April 24th as we're recording, and we know that this episode is going to come out on April 28th. I can't believe that it's already the end of April. Spring is upon us. Paris, you were here in Vancouver last week, and we actually did a lot of springtime activities.
We did. We spent a lot of time in the sun. We did a lot of steps. I was so excited. I completely blacked out on my flight home. Just kidding. That's a whole different story that we won't get into. But apart from the incident on the flight home, we had an amazing trip. It was so cool. Spend time with Courtney, as she mentioned, both as a sibling and as I guess business partners or whatever you want to call it. But it was really cool. Yeah, really cool trip. Vancouver, I can see why people go there. It's super nice, and it's kind of cool because I feel like your weather gets into summer mode slightly before us, so you get a little taste of what's to come. Over out east this way, which was kind of inspiring for the summer season.
For sure, and it's also, I think you lucked out because it's cherry blossom season in Vancouver. So all of the trees are blooming and it's gorgeous. You just have this beautiful pink flowers. And I don't know about you, but between that, the natural views, the sunshine, getting out and being social again, having you guys here visiting, it really made me excited for summer. It just kind of plants that seed of, okay, summer is around the corner. Did you feel the same way?
Definitely. I'm super excited for summer. And I'm actually starting my fat loss phase to get in shape for summer, with air quotes. On Mondays. So this is a perfect podcast topic because when we're excited for summer, a lot of things that come to our mind are revolving around, I want to be looking and feeling good.
Mm-hmm. Looking and feeling good. I'm glad you said both those things because they're both important. And I think summer is complicated. When you think about the relationship between the fitness industry and summer, it's complicated. And I'm going to summarize it by saying it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You can be sitting here thinking, okay, summer's around the corner. I'm so excited. I'm motivated. The days are longer. The sun is shining. I have newfound energy. This is awesome. But the other side of the equation is you could be sitting here saying, oh no, summer's around the corner. I'm not feeling really confident with, my body or my routines, or I know summer is going to be unpredictable because there's all these events and I don't know how to navigate them. So I would say summer is that double-edged sword when it comes to fitness. We've got this motivation, but we also have a little bit of this hesitancy. Do you see that too?
Yeah, people are very motivated to, achieve a certain look for summer, but then they're also very excited about patio drinks and there's more social events and these weddings. And a lot of times people are stuck between I'm very excited, I want to see awesome progress, but I also want to live this life. So maybe I should just keep delaying my goals like I've been doing for the past 2 or 3 years anyways. You know what I mean? They kind of fall into that mindset. Whereas I think we can talk about different perspective shifts in this podcast around maybe reframing mindsets towards the summer. And that can be one of them. It is a tough balance between I want the flexibility, perceived flexibility of these summer gatherings, events, and fun times, but I also want the progress to look and feel awesome during summer.
Yeah. And I would say that I think the fitness industry actually does people a bit of a disservice in terms of playing into that feeling of trying to figure out how you have both, to be honest, because I think this is the time of year where we start to see all this marketing language around summer shred, getting shredded for summer, or getting your summer body, and all those sorts of things. And I think it can make people feel even more stuck. Do you have that same thought, or am I alone in that?
Yeah, and maybe we're slightly guilty of this too, but marketing towards the conversations that people are having in their minds already. People are already thinking about it, so it's more likely to them to engage with marketing that's joining the conversation in their mind, in some aspects.
Yeah, I do think there is a difference though between joining the conversation they're having and helping maybe guide them towards a more productive thought stream or stream of thought versus joining the conversation of their minds and kind of preying upon it and being oh, let's take advantage of this, right?
No, definitely.
I think there's a difference there. And so our goal for today is to actually do more of the first one, which is, okay, summer's happening. That's going to happen regardless, which is the change of seasons. Many people are going to go through those lifestyle shifts. We have 2 months until we're really into the start of summer officially. what can people do to help have that productive, not just stream of thought, but also productive action towards summer goals? I'll preface by saying our goal with this conversation is that we embrace this idea of like being motivated for summer, but it's also about things that are going to last beyond summer. It's not getting shredded for summer. It's like doing something now to feel good heading into summer, but then also continue that so that next summer when it rolls around, you're not going like, oh my God, I'm having the same thought again.
For sure, for sure. It goes back to the conversations we always talked about, not making your fitness journey a phase. And I always tell people, like, yes, from now until summer, you can make some kick-ass progress and kickstart awesome momentum. Fantastic. Love it. But most of the time, the type of shape you want to be in by summer, you would have had to already started several months ago. I'm not just saying don't start now, but I'm saying like most of the time, the progress you want, you should have started earlier. Typically, people delay things and then you get one nice day and you're like, oh, shoot, I forgot that summer's going to be here and I want to feel good. It's like we need to be proactive thinkers in our fitness journey. And as you said, think about it. I just want to be in shape for summer. How about I just want to be in shape, period. So then all the time you just feel awesome. You feel strong. You feel great. You're always progressing. Like that's where we want to be.
Love that. For me, what I heard from you is this idea of like summer's not a deadline. Summer's not a let's get in shape for this deadline. It's a checkpoint. It's like, oh, summer's coming up. Cool. How am I feeling right now? I'm on track. I'm feeling great. Awesome. And if you're not on track feeling great, that's what this podcast is for. But just thinking about summer like a checkpoint in your journey versus a deadline. You also spoke about how it's really hard to do things in a short timeline, right? And being like, oh my God, summer's coming. I got to do things now. So let's talk about that. Let's start this conversation with this idea of there's 2 months until summer. As of today, we're thinking about we've got 2 months. I do think people need to remember what's actually realistic to accomplish in 2 months. Let's talk a little bit about what that is. What's realistic for people to start being able to do in a 2-month timeline? Because getting this huge transformation, if your expectations are there, you're probably, I hate to say it, but like setting yourself up for a little bit of disappointment. So what is realistic for people to achieve in the 2 months leading up to summer so they can still feel confident when summer starts, but also things are achievable?
Yeah, I think in 2 months you can be well on your way to a pretty sweet transformation. But I want you to think of it as you said, like not having it as a deadline, just checkpoint and being like, okay, instead of saying, oh, I only have 8 weeks, so why bother? It's more like, look how much I can do in 8 weeks, and I'll already be in so much momentum that'll be carried throughout the rest of the summer. And if you're experienced, like for example, let's use myself as context right now. I am at the peak of my building phase, and I'm going to run a pretty short fat loss phase that will be just under 2 months. For me, I can actually make substantial visual progress because I've done this so many times. But if you're newer to your fitness journey, you can't expect crazy transformations because there's so many habits, skills, learning systems that you need to now create in your life before you can then attack progress immediately. If you're super experienced, you know what buttons to press, you know what you need to do, you just jump right in, progress will happen pretty smoothly. But if you're newer, you have to give yourself some time. So I think if you're newer, focus on the habits and momentum building rather than how much progress can I make in this time frame. It's like, okay, how much momentum with my habits and skills and actions can I create in this 2 months?
And I would say even just making momentum be the form of progress that you're measuring. So when you're thinking, okay, how much progress can I make? It's not how much can I change my physique. It's how much momentum can I build? And let that be your definition of accomplishment over the 2 month period. So how do you do that, right? It's focusing on the actions that you can do. I think putting actions in place where you're like, am I doing these things every day? Am I building consistency? Because that's going to be equivalent to momentum.
Yeah. I think if you're hyper focused on maximizing the inputs, that's the one way to build momentum. Like if you are so inputs focused, it's impossible for you not to build momentum. It's like the more I get into my fitness journey, I become more and more passionate about inputs, I think.
Yeah. And I think 8 weeks is a lot of opportunity, right? 8 weeks is, what is that? 7 times 8, 56. Is that math right? Yeah, 56. 56 days. If you did something for 56 days in a row, I would say that's a really good chunk of time to say, okay, I'm doing it consistently. Or even if it's not 56 days in a row, if there's some things like, if you're going to the gym 3 times a week or something, times 8, right? You now have 24 workouts that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
100%.
Just thinking about those daily or weekly check boxes, which actually brings me to, I want to provide a little bit of a momentum building game plan for people here. In these 2 months, what are some of the actions that people can be focusing on to be like, okay, what is it that is going to unlock that momentum for me in these next 8 weeks?
Yeah, I think the first step is defining like a clear goal that you want to head towards. It doesn't mean you have to accomplish this certain goal before the summer, but it means that the actions have directions towards a certain goal. So you know the directionality of the actions. Because if you could say, okay, I need to do tons of inputs, but if there's no specificity in terms of where you want to go, then like, what are the inputs that we should be doing?
Right.
Should I be practicing like, I don't know, sprinting? Or should I be practicing like 3 rep max on squats? Like we have no idea what we should be doing. So first is getting clear on the goal. Then instead of saying I have to accomplish this goal before X time frame, it's more like I have to now put these inputs into place so I can start creating momentum. So that could look a lot of different things depending on the type of.
Yeah. So examples of that. Let's talk quickly about examples of that. Like the directionality component is like giving yourself that vision or that anchor to work towards, right? So one of those things could be, okay, I just want to be more active so that moving during the summer and activities aren't exhausting me. Okay, then what's going to let you be more active? That could just be, am I going for a 10-minute walk every day, right? Or am I hitting a certain step count? Another example might be, you know what, I want to be more informed about protein sources so that at summer barbecues, I'm making decisions about which foods are contributing to my protein goals. In that case, every day, you might be tracking your protein intake or measuring out different portions of protein sources to understand how much protein is in them. So again, you set this intention, like you said, your goal, and that gives you the direction to be able to filter and refine which actions you can now do in these next 2 months to unlock that goal later. Does that sound good? Any other examples you want to talk about?
I mean, so many. I think like if we think logically, like we need some sort of basic actions for training, we need or activity, we need some basic actions for nutrition, and we need some basic actions for lifestyle. So it's like, okay, maybe I'm going to choose 2 major needle movers for each of those pillars. And at least I know that's going to start driving some momentum. So maybe it's, okay, for my training, I'm going to have these 3 workouts with these exercises. Okay, great. And then it's like, okay, my nutrition, I'm going to hit this protein range and I'm going to hit this carb range. Okay, great. And then from lifestyle, all right, I'm going to sleep in this range, per night, and I'm going to do a mindful walk for 20 minutes after lunch. Like, there you go. Start, get going.
So just to recap, make it super clear structure, vision, goal, and then let's say 2 to 5 daily or weekly actions that you want to take to bring you closer to the direction of that goal. Good summary?
Yeah. And absolutely. And you can always add actions later, but start simple. Especially if you're new, don't start with 10 to 15 habits that you need to do daily, weekly. As Courtney said, you start with however many you said, 2 to 5 daily, include 1 to 2 weekly in there. And then you can always add after.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, we're talking about like a 2-month time frame, right? So if you can do smaller amounts for this 2-month time frame, there is going to be a compounding effect there, but it's also not overloading you so that the goal is after that 2 months, you can also still keep doing them. So these are actions that are not just for the next 2 months, but they're giving you that, again, momentum building. This is a momentum building game plan. So building momentum for the things you also want to carry through into summer. So it's another great way to be filtering some of these actions is like, what are the ones I actually want to keep doing during the summer? Because it's not like you get there and you're like, done.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is step 1 and 2 of our momentum building game plan. First is having a vision to set the direction. And then the second is aligning daily or weekly actions to that vision. Now, the third one I want to call out here is find accountability. If you're working over a 2-month time frame, it's only natural that there's going to be moments where you think, I don't really feel like doing this, or this thing happened and whatever. Having some form of accountability is going to be one of the biggest drivers of unlocking that consistency that you need to actually establish momentum. How do you feel about that? What do you think about this notion of accountability over 2 months?
Absolutely. So underrated because, I mean, you could find a workout plan online. You could try to find a nutrition plan online, but like nothing matters unless you have adherence. And one of the biggest factors influencing adherence for anybody, no matter how experienced you are in your fitness journey, is accountability, which is why Courtney and I still have coaches and still have other accountability partners in our life that help us with accountability, because no matter how passionate you are, accountability, you're always going to do better when somebody's looking at your homework, I always say. When your teacher checks your homework, you're always going to do better. It doesn't have to be a coach, but friend, family, whoever.
Absolutely. I had a client yesterday who did a workout in the morning, did not think of herself as a workout morning person, but the roommate was like, come on, let's go, right? So like it could be anybody in your
Good
life
example, yeah.
who helps keep you accountable. Or depending on kind of what your social circle looks like, you can also be your own accountability partner in different ways by like visualizing it. So, you think about having a calendar where you put an X on the days where you achieve something, or, the old school, we don't collect pennies anymore, but the old school way was like you'd have a jar and you'd put like a penny in it or a coin every time you did something. Maybe that could be a piece of paper or something instead now. I think there's ways you can hold yourself accountable where you are dependent on someone else, and sometimes when you're not.
It's stronger when it's to somebody else, as you're saying. But as you said, like the power of just checking a box on a piece of paper, you'd be surprised what that can do to keep you locked in. Like the fact that if you miss the box, it just will mess with you. So like on your fridge, you have it on your...
My daily to-do list is in my agenda planner, so I can check off the box every day.
There you go. What a dopamine hit, right? Yeah. What positive reinforcement from checking boxes, literally and metaphorically speaking. So I think it's really important to have that accountability piece, and you'd be surprised the power of it if you have never had some sort of accountability, how far that can really go.
Absolutely. Okay. Speaking of checking boxes, we've checked 3 boxes in our summer momentum building game plan. Recap: having a clear vision that sets the direction. Number 2, identifying actions, 3 to 5 daily and weekly actions that align with that direction and vision. And then number 3 is finding a form of accountability to be able to stick to them over the 2-month period. So the last one is a little bit less of a, let's say, action and more of a way of thinking. But I think the 4th important one I do want to acknowledge is shift your mindset. Shift your mindset to align with what we actually started this podcast talking about with it, which is what is the purpose or what is the intended outcome of your momentum building phase. So for your game plan to work and for you to feel confident in it, you need to be locked into a mindset that says, my goal here is actually creating momentum. My goal is the consistency. How I evaluate success is in, am I doing the things? And am I feeling confident about how I'm doing the things? And making that mindset switch will give you so much more reassurance that you're on the right track than waiting for some sort of physical outcome.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool.
I think that's very practical, like four-step process.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this. You got to put things in the frameworks. It just helps like conceptualize and articulate ideas, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like that's our hope with this podcast, right? Is that, yes, we love to talk about the nuance and go back and forth and explore the gray zone. But sometimes it's nice to have something that just feels like, okay, this is tangible. And, maybe we'll even do an Instagram post or something that visualizes this framework for all of you guys who are listening. So you can have that as a nice little save and take away and create your own summer game plan based off that framework.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely.
So before we round things off, I do want to talk about like why this mindset shift is actually important. I want to explore that a little bit more. We talked earlier about this idea of this being like a launch pad into your summer, but then also launch pad beyond summer. So you're not just doing this thing to get to summer. You're doing it to set up the confidence to get you through summer and keep going as well. And there's a concept that I want to explore here that you and I talk a lot about in general. Stacking wins. Can you just talk a little bit about how the concept of stacking wins, I guess first, what is it? And then how does it apply in this idea of trying to build momentum heading into summer?
Yeah. So it's kind of like how we said, focusing on the inputs and being like hyper-focused on like being really passionate about the inputs. And that goes along a little bit with stacking wins, because I think stacking wins in itself is kind of like building momentum. They're pretty much synonymous. Let's say I wake up and I started my day with a walk. I've already won and I've already checked one box. I'm already winning. So it's easier for me then, I already did this. All right, let me sit down and get that project done that I've been delaying. Great. Boom, done. Awesome. What else can I do? Stack something else. Okay, I'm going to go hit this high protein meal that helps me hit my daily targets. Amazing. All right, what's next? And if you get into this habit stacking mode or this stacking wins mode, you're like a freight train that is impossible to stop. You just have to do the first one first, like to get out of bed and go on that walk if that was what you promised yourself you'd do. And now all of a sudden, you did the first one and now you're set up to keep it going. And I think we've talked about how to build confidence, and one of the ways was to create a track record to look back on. And if you look at the first part of your day and you've already done like 4 different wins, you're like, all right, I'm confident I can keep winning over the rest of the day and the next days as well, and over the week. So I think it's just give yourself some initial wins, and they tend to just carry you for the rest of the time. Anyways, whatever timeline you're talking about.
And in your experience working with different clients, over the last several summers, what do you feel like is the difference maker to how they either approach their summer season or come out of their summer season when they're able to stack wins in the time leading up to it?
Yeah, I think being in a good spot with momentum already going into summer is helpful, because then you're not trying to generate momentum in summer already. You're trying to just keep it. And there's a massive, massive difference in generating momentum and keeping momentum. So much easier to keep momentum for a variety of reasons. The people that do very well during the summer have the mindset of, I'm going to do the best that I can given the situations, and I'm going to commit to strategies for these events or these things that are out of routine. People that don't do too well are, it's a summer, I may as well not even try anyways, because I really want to do all these things. It's like, okay. Or the people that aren't willing to commit to certain strategies to try to do both. Because you can do both. You can be in awesome shape or continue getting in awesome shape while enjoying your summer. We've seen it tons and tons of times again. But it starts with you have to believe that that's an option first. And then you have to say, what are the strategies and mindsets I need to keep adopting throughout the summer in order to keep the progress going or maintain the progress that I already have. And I think if people made that kind of, mental frame shift or reframe things like that, then they would do a lot better.
So this is the opportunity window. These 2 months are the opportunity window to start generating that momentum, start practicing that mindset shift, and really build that confidence and sense of self-efficacy. Like, I think if you can, the most important thing when you have that self-limiting belief is like, oh, it's going to be too hard to do it then, so I might as well not try. It's because you haven't proved it to yourself yet. If you use these 2 months to prove it to yourself, the momentum is right in front of you. Use it as a proof of concept so that when you get into those summer months, you're like, okay, I've been doing this. I might need to adapt, or you know what? I might, for lack of a better expression, slip up or, not be able to do things the same way. That's okay. But you have already proved to yourself that you can get things done. And I think the other thing that's important to remember is at least trying to maintain that momentum and experimenting with it is way more powerful than being like, well, it's summer, I'm throwing my hands up. Because you know what? Summer is going to come around again next year. And even if you don't execute things, to your own standard this summer, let's say you've got the momentum, you've tried, to maintain it. You might have found it challenging, but now you've got these great learnings about, okay, these are the summer occasions where I felt it was the hardest. Or, you know what? I tried this strategy and it worked really, really well. Next summer, you have this whole new toolbox of experience that you get to draw out from. So yes, it's important to build momentum heading into summer, but that momentum isn't just about, okay, I'm now confident and I can continue doing these things. That momentum is like, I now have the ability to spend some time and energy with this trial and error so that next summer I'm going to do even better.
Yeah, I like that. And although there is like a higher frequency maybe of, events and socializing, we tend to globalize ideas, right? Like we tend to say, oh, there's so many events in the summer. Oh, I have tons of this and tons of that. But then when you really look at the week, it's like isolated events where it's like, okay, you can plan for these. You know what I mean? And I think part of the confidence building going into summer is if you have a formula for each of the types of gatherings or social events or different things you have going on already, then you just plug and play those formulas, which goes back to your point of like, if you do it this summer, the next summer you have more tools in the toolbox is what you said, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, let's see the three most common events I'm going to have. Okay, I got a patio drinks type night. I got a friend's birthday party, and I got a wedding. All right, let me come up with a formula that allows me to still, stay relatively on point for those three things. So that whenever I have one of those things come up, I just plug and play the formula and I don't have to stress.
Yeah.
Because I've already figured it out beforehand.
I love that. And I also think you talked about this idea of like globalizing things. And it also reminded me of like, sometimes we put summer events on a pedestal for the right reasons. They're fun. They're a blast. I love summer. I'm a summer baby. I will advocate for summer. It's my favorite season. I'm not going to take away from that. But there's actually more parallels between summer and the rest of our lives than we think. So for example, like a patio day out with friends and maybe you're having a couple drinks, not that different than like going out to eat and sitting inside. right? In terms of the actual potential structure, or like a pub night. Now you're just sitting outside. Like, people also travel at other times of year. Like, if we're thinking about summer travel,
Yes.
people tend to travel more in summer, but some people do winter getaways, right? Like, it's not necessarily always these things that are exclusive to summer.
Good point.
So reminding ourselves that we might even have momentum already from experiences we've had the rest of the year, that we now get to copy and paste the formulas over and just apply them in summer, instead of thinking about it as this entirely different thing.
100%. It's not as different. The only thing is that we now have sunshine. Let's also play devil's advocate on the other side of the train and be like, okay, we've been saying summer is tougher for these reasons, to stay in shape or get in shape. On the flip side, you have nicer weather. Your mood is probably better. It's easier to get your steps in. Your hunger's usually lower when the weather's hotter for most people than in winter when we're freezing, if you live in Canada like we do. So it's like, in a lot of ways, if you feel better, more likely to have higher activity levels already, better weather. Like, sometimes even that in itself just makes staying on track easier. Like, I don't know about you, if you're feeling awesome all the time, staying on track seems so much easier than if you're down in the dumps.
100%. And just even if you're not sitting there watching TV as much, it's a lot harder to like just pick up the 5 bags of chips in the cupboard. I know that's a little bit of a specific example, but it is true. You bring to light a really important mindset, which is like, don't just think about summer as like, all right, I now have to do all these things to navigate the complexities of summer, which ultimately, actually brings me to 2 key things I want people to take away. 1, it's a privilege to have life experiences. So embracing summer and being like, there's fun times ahead, shouldn't feel daunting. It should feel empowering. It should be like, wow, summer is an awesome opportunity for me to live life and experience life and stay on track with my fitness goals. Because as you said earlier in this podcast, you can do both. The second thing is use the opportunity that you have. Like you said, you can be more active naturally without even thinking about it half the time. Summer barbecues, let's just think about the foods that are often there. Barbecue is usually a protein source. Okay, cool. Yeah. We're checking our protein box by default on that day, right? Like, seeing the opportunities and also choosing to see how much summer could actually boost your fitness journey is equally as important to understanding maybe how you might need to navigate certain events differently.
For me personally, and what I learned when I was pretty much in competition prep all summer last summer, is I learned how to be more present in the moment without relying on food to give me the experience, or indulgences like alcohol and extra food to give me that, like, means I'm enjoying myself. And that was kind of like, it takes a lot to like overcoming that self-limiting belief. It's like, okay, I'm going to have way more fun if I'm eating all the burgers and chips and having the 5 beers. It's like, would you? Yeah, those are amplifying the experience, but they are not the experience themselves. You know what I mean? So if like the sun is shining, you're with people that you love, you have good scenery around, you're having good conversations, like that is the main focus. And that's, I think, what I learned personally last summer is like, you can still have a great time if you learn how to be present and not rely on indulgences as the experience, and more focus on the people and then the environment and trying to be present as the experience.
Very well said. And if I do say so, that's exactly how I felt last weekend when you and Tara were here visiting. We ate some great food, some of it home cooked, some of it out. We took in some amazing scenery. We were all very present. We all disconnected from work life and just focused on being together and having good conversation. And to me, that was like the kickoff of my summer too, because the weather was great and you guys were here. So when we talk about proof of concept, you and I can confidently say that we've given ourselves that ability to have the proof of concept, and hope that other people listening also can look back at moments where they're like, oh yeah, I can do this. This proof of concept, I've already done it.
Definitely. I agree.
Okay, everybody. So I think we're going to wrap it up for this week. We're looking forward to summer and hope you are too. We'd love to hear from you. If there is something in the next 2 months leading up to summer, 2 months, 8 weeks, however you want to break it down, that you want to do to be consistent. What is that thing? Tell us the one thing that you are looking to do as your momentum builder as you head into summer. Drop it in the comments here. If you're listening on Spotify, drop a comment. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, drop a comment. Apple Podcasts, same rules apply. Drop a comment. We'd love to hear how you're looking to build your own momentum in the 2 months leading up to summer. Or if you have any other thoughts on how you're approaching your fitness goals over this summer, we look forward to hearing them. While you're down there, if you haven't already, I have to plug the subscribe button. Hopefully, most of you listening have subscribed, but if you haven't, please do that while you're there. That way you will not miss the weekly updates as we share them every Monday with new episodes. Alrighty, everybody. With that, have a wonderful kick off to the 2 months before summer, and we'll catch you next week on Truth Talks. Bye for now.